Welcome to another edition of the RF Video Series Face Off. Tonight we are joined by none other than Raven and James Mitchell. Thanks for being here, guys. Raven, it's all yours. Take it away.
First thing I want to talk about is the fact that we just left Canyon's funeral, and so we'd like to talk about him because he had passed away earlier in the week. He took his own life, and not to make this a maudlin, it's not going to be a maudlin, or morose or sad discussion, but just to actually talk about all the great things because he was such a great guy. And so we're up in a wake up in New York, and then we had our tickets. We had to fly back home out of Philly, so figured we'd do this. And obviously, as many people know, or probably figured that Jim Mitchell, or Vandy as I call him, or a filthy old queen as he looks like, he does look like a filthy old queen, was Canyon's best friend. I was one of his closest friends too, and I just can't. He makes me laugh when this is when I looked in the casket. I told you, like, I kept waiting for him to start chuckling and start laughing, like he couldn't hold it in anymore, like he was ribbing us.
Well, yeah, I seriously thought, like, when I touched him, that he was gonna go, boo, or and
right.
It didn't.
It was weird. It was really weird. But man, what a great guy. I'll just. Not the Bogart at the time, but great story. My favorite story with me and Canyon is obviously now it's well known that he's gay.
Right.
And for years, people assumed he was gay, thought that he was gay. Maybe he was gay, maybe he wasn't gay, but nobody really knew for sure. In fact, my theory that I came to, and I think I convinced a lot of other people, because this is what I thought, was that he just wasn't he was asexual. Like, he just didn't have any interest in sex. I figured he had no game, because he had the lisp, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I figured he wasn't into chicks because he never hit on them, because I used to be into him a lot and stuff. And so when we'd hang out, it just wasn't his thing. And so I just thought that I didn't think he was gay. I just thought he was asexual, but I would tease him. I would always go, "Hey, Canyon, are you gay?" And he's like, "No." I was like, "Okay." And so it became like a running Abbott and Costello gag where every time I would see him, or in the middle of a conversation, I'd go, "You gay?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Okay." And then so finally, before he outed himself to everybody, there was some people he wanted to out himself to privately in person, his closest friends. So so I go to him, I go, "Are you gay?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Oh, okay." And I went back to having a conversation with whoever else I was talking to, and he's like, "Are you kidding me? That's it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I go, I don't care that you're gay." He's like, "But doesn't it?" I'm like, "No, not at all." I go, "It's a gorgeous dog."
Yeah.
What kind of dog is this?
The boxer. I'm going to get her
The
upstairs.
boxer.
Come on, Lacey, treat.
You can leave her down here.
All right.
But anyway, yeah, it was like, he's it never fazed me that he's gay, because why would I care? You know what I mean? He's my friend. I don't give a shit.
Well, when I first met him in 1992, he had this great job. He was a traveling physical therapist. So what they would do, these companies would recruit guys like him, and they would send them out to hospitals for 9-week assignments.
Right.
And basically, if you worked and you traveled all around the country, 9 weeks at a time, wherever they assigned you, you'd make $75,000 a year, and that was completely clear because you didn't have to pay for they paid for your housing,
right.
They paid for your car, they paid for your meals.
Now, the physical therapy, who was that on?
Old people. Yeah, I think he went to old folks' homes, sometimes in a hospital, but...
Right.
Anyway, so he had this great gig where he's making $75,000 a year, which was more money than most wrestlers on TV would.
And of course, that would be like 170 right now.
Yeah, this is 1992, and this is clear money. He had no expenses.
Right.
So obviously, you've got a guy in South Carolina, fucking South Carolina, and
you can cuss. It's okay. I saw you kind of catch yourself there.
Okay.
It's okay. It's
bumfuck.
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 Fucktard. I like fucktard. It's a personal favorite
Just
of mine.
to the left of shit stain. Anyway, so here's a guy, kind of an athletic guy, and he's hanging out at the pool every day, and I was like living on his couch because we'd met, and I was kind of helping him get into business and whatnot, and he was helping me not be homeless. And but women were going crazy for him. Okay, they were going ape shit. And I thought, like you did, that he was just asexual, because the way he'd say it to me, like, he called me DVH for Daryl Van Horn. He'd go, DVH, I'm not like you. I'm not indiscriminate. I don't fuck stinky, smelly whores. You know? So fuck that. I'm not gonna fuck these nasty whores by my pool. And I'd be like, man, I'll fuck her. Hook me up with that, you know? And they'd come in and they'd hang on him and they'd be all over him. And now the girls used to say, I think your friend's gay. And I'd say, no, he's not, because you know how he was. He was very butch. Right. You motherfucker!
Yeah.
You know, and very homophobic.
Right.
We'll get into that in a minute, too. Because I had a habit of getting drunk and passing out naked in his house, and he'd go berserk. I'm incriminating myself here somewhere. Anyway.
Were you saddened that he didn't make a move on you?
Yeah. Here's the deal. So I have no idea that he's gay at all. He moved.
But you're hoping.
Yeah, I'm hoping. He moves. And he moved from Columbia, South Carolina to Florence. So I get a phone call.
And in retrospect, going to train with Moolah, the fabulous Moolah should have been another tip-off.
Yeah.
Just like Freddie Mercury named the band Queen.
Yeah.
But I didn't see that either.
That's why he bumped like a girl.
Yes.
Boom, boom, as Arn used to say. Anyway, no, he didn't bump like a girl. He's a great bumper. Anyway, so he leaves town, and he's gone for about a week or two, and he calls me, and I get a call, and he goes, Daryl Van Horn. Yeah, Canyon, how you doing? How's shit wherever you are? No, he moved to New York is where he moved. He moved up to New York.
It's the same thing as...
Yeah, he moves to New York, and I'd met his cousins before. His cousins are very butch, you know, New York guys, and they don't like no fags. Fuck them fucking queers, man. You ought to kill them queers, all that kind of shit, right? He calls me, he goes, I have a confession to make. I go, what's that? And he goes, your close personal friend, Chris Canyon Klusaritz, is bisexual. I go, what?
He was talking in the third person?
Yeah, he goes, Chris Canyon is bisexual. And I go, okay, hold on. Do you mean...
Wait, let me talk for 1 second. Could you turn the air conditioning up? I'm sweating my balls off. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right.
I said, do you mean bisexual like...
You'll
you
pay for it?
fuck vaginas and you occasionally suck a dick? Or you take it in the shitter and occasionally eat pussy? Or are you bisexual like Elton John and Boy George were bisexual because it was a nice way of saying you're gay? And he goes, the third one. And I go, really? And I go, well, I said, I had no fucking idea. Why? But why? I mean, I don't care. I mean, because I used to tell him all the time, and I guess he was feeling me out to see how I'd react. Because I was like, I don't give a fuck if you're gay, you know, or anybody's gay. You know, I used to throw him off. I'd tell him, look, if I was gay, if I sucked dicks, I'd tell people I sucked dicks and be happy. I wouldn't care, you know. So I guess that's why he felt comfortable enough to say that to me. So I said, well, why are you telling me this? And he goes, well, I was moving. And he said, you know those U-Haul things that you put on the top of your car that look like a big suitcase? And I go, yeah. He goes, well, my cousins, you met my cousins, and you know how they are. You heard them talk about fags. And I go, yeah. And he goes, we're moving. And they lift this big fucking U-Haul thing off the top of my car. And it hit the ground. And it was like a piñata full of gay pornography all over the street. And I go, what? And he goes, oh, bro. And they looked at me. And he goes, I panicked. And I said, that's Daryl Van Horn's. That's his. He's a sick motherfucker. He pulls ribs on people. And for all I know, he's gay. He probably sucks dicks. He's probably a fag too, or bisexual. And I go, okay. And I said, okay. So I took the hit. And he goes, no, but I need you to do me a favor more than that. I go, what's that? And he goes, I need you to call my cousin and tell him, hey, it's very important that I get a hold of Canyon because I left some material of mine in his house, and it is very, very important that I get this material. He will know what I mean. And so I go, okay. I said, so you want me to take the heat for being gay? I said, fine, I don't give a shit. So I call the cousin. The cousin's like, who's this? Daryl Van Horn? I go, yeah. And I go into the spiel. I left the shit. And he goes, oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Oh, your material. What kind of material? Oh, you don't want to talk about your material? You sure you don't want to tell me what kind of material you left? No, it's just very, very personal items and whatnot. So that's how I found out he was gay. But then I forgot that he was gay because I would call him, he'd call me up or whatnot and go, Canyon, man, I banged this hot rat, man, you'd love her. And he'd go, you fucking idiot, I'm a fucking homo. I'd be like, oh, okay. But I forgot for the longest time. I mean, I would forget until I hooked back up with him in Atlanta, and then it was different. But
well, let me ask you this: do do you think that people would have cared? Like he was so scared that people were, as it comes out later, he was so worried that it was going to affect him in the business, that people thought he was gay. But to me, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. If I was in that position, maybe I'd see it that way. But Pat's fucking gay, and he's in like one of the highest. Pat Patterson. He could be higher.
Sure.
Profile guy in the business.
Right.
Unless you were Vince. And I'm sure Vince sucked a few cocks.
Well, Canyon's thing. Okay, first of all, you got to figure Canyon, when he was breaking in, he comes from New York, that his neighborhood wasn't very tolerant of gays. Then when he came to South Carolina, I remember sitting in a room before I knew he was gay, and he would try to stimulate conversation just to see what people would say. And I was the only person who wouldn't bury gay people. But all the rest of them, you got these fucking trailer park indie workers that are burying gay people.
But the boys will bury anything you bring up.
But then, when he came to
if you bring up black people, they'll bury black people. If you bring up Jews, they'll bury Jews.
But
it doesn't really. But it's like Ludwig Borga, was a Nazi. You know what I mean? Hated Jews or whatever.
Right.
But he never had a problem with me. He knew my family was Jewish.
Canyon would. I kept telling him, you need to tell your good friends, because everybody loved Canyon.
I know.
Canyon had good friends, but they'd sit around and they'd talk, do gay jokes and shit.
But
he'd feel like he couldn't tell them.
But you're missing my point, though. I mean, that's a different subject.
Oh,
but
okay. I'm sorry.
No, but which is a good subject. But I'm saying, to me, like, do you really think that anybody would have cared in the business if he would have just came out and kept it to him? As long as he didn't, Pat Patterson was gay. I think there was who else? There was somebody else like in Shire's territory. I think was gay too, or whatever. There's definitely been. I was reading some book. Something about wrestling, the wrestling to heels, and I think there was somebody else who was a big name who was gay or something.
Oh, there's been several over the years.
Yeah, but I'm saying, do you really think that the boys would have given a shit?
No.
Do you think it would have? Do you think it would have affected his career, his progress?
I think in wrestling, period, if you're worth money, it doesn't matter what you do. I mean, look, how many drug addicts have we seen that can get away with shit because they draw?
Yeah, but there's drawing. Very few people draw. Most people are either dressing or they're jobbers,
right?
Or they're underneath,
right.
And so that's when people use the term draw. Like nobody draws. I mean,
I don't think he had. I don't think he had enough self-confidence.
I know, but that's not what I'm asking. That's not what I'm asking.
You're asking would they really give a shit?
Yeah, I'm saying what the boys do. Do you think it would have impeded his career whatsoever? I'm saying, let's say he was fully confident enough to do it,
right,
and he came out. Do you think anybody would have cared?
Nobody who was in management at the time. There were still some cracker motherfuckers in WCW.
But do you think anybody would have cared?
No.
I mean, look at Orlando Jordan. You know what I mean? Nobody cared.
Right.
He's fucking talented. You know what I mean? Nobody cared. In New York until I'm not actually sure. I think I think there was a bit of some sort of speculation about that I don't know. So I don't want to say, you know what I mean? I've tried to mature as I've gotten older, but and then like the Hogan and all them were all going to use him, and then I guess they did the thing at TNA where he had the male and the female valet, so they actually wanted him to come out, bi.
Right.
And but then the male valet fucking rubbed his hand over his cock, and it kind of was like, wait, that might be a little too far,
right.
But I mean, so. Yeah, I mean, if you have talent, I mean, drawing, I hate when they use that word draw,
right.
because very few people draw. But, if you're recognized as somebody who can be dressing on a card, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't see people caring that much, and maybe I'm delusional.
He made a bigger deal out of it, but see, I mean, it was easy for me to say that because I'm not a closeted gay.
But
I don't know what it feels like.
You still haven't. You're still.
Do I think people would care?
Do you think it would have affected him in the business? Do you think it would have hurt him being Mortis or him being?
No, I mean, it would affect him on indie shows. In the real business on TV, no.
Yeah, I don't think
because he can work.
Yeah,
he can work. He was good.
I don't think it would have affected anything.
I don't think it would have hurt anything. But he didn't believe that.
Yeah, well, but we know that. I mean, obviously, that or he would have said something. But I mean,
right.
So yeah, that goes without saying. I'm just, and maybe I'm delusional, but I just don't think that people care that much. I mean, look how many people claim, if blacks come up and they get all racist. You know what I mean? Like, but if supposedly Watts was a racist, but he drew more money with black people, that's
sure.
why, with the Junkyard Dog than anybody. He's the first guy to put a black guy on the top of the card to try and draw money,
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like, I figure I'm like an equal opportunity offender. I'd like to make fun of everybody equally.
Sure.
No matter what they are. But.
Sure.
But yeah, it was the funniest thing though. So I go, you gay? He goes, yeah. I go, okay. And he's like, but don't you want to hear about it? I go, not really. I don't really care. He goes, doesn't that bother you at all? I'm like, no. Why would I even care? You're my friend. I can give a rat's ass.
Well, that's why I remember him telling me after that happened, it blew his mind because he had built it up in his head. When you were ribbing him, just the same kind of shit. Like, we walk up to Johnny Swinger, go, Johnny Swinger, suck my dick. Johnny Swinger, go fuck yourself. Whatever.
Why would you say that to Johnny Swinger?
I don't know. That's just our term of endearment.
No, what we say is because of what we used to say is Johnny Swinger, you're an ass. By the way, what happened was Vandy had this rat, and it was like this 98-pound crack whore rat, and he put the Mortis mask on her, right? It's fucking awesome. So he puts the Mortis mask on her, and then he starts giving her promo material. And
on tape.
And remember how Canyon used to be like a, sort of, had the
Muay Thai.
Yeah, the Muay Thai Street Fighter. So he's like this. So the girl's trying to do it, but she's going. And her wrists are all
like
floppy.
She's got palsy or something.
like there's no support there. And so she's gone. So Vandy gives her the material. So like he went to a bunch of the boys, but the one that stuck because it was the funniest was
because Canyon used to say, Johnny Swinger, you're an ass. That's why I gave Federer the
right. But he had like Glacier, this and that, whatever, and somebody else, Ron Reese, whatever. But so the Swinger one though was he's Johnny Swinger, you're an ass. Oh, and she's buck naked. He says, Johnny Swinger, you're an ass. By the way, here's my ass. It's the fucking stupidest thing ever. Buck naked.
And a Mortis mask.
Yeah, buck naked, 98-pound crack whore, fucking, just pinkish, reddish skin, just with a Mortis mask. It's fucking hysterical.
Yep.
He hated when you put the Mortis mask on rats.
That did not make him happy at all. Or when I used the Yorick the cane.
Yes.
For various insertions.
Yes, they used to call the Yorick, the cane had a skull head on it, which was like Shakespeare. When he looks at it, he goes, "Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him well." So we actually have Shakespeare going on now in the fucking in Ratville, USA. And Vandy is just a filthy degenerate, but Canyon was the best though. Like I remember one of my favorite things is we were doing a match and it was in a cage and he was gonna hit me with a chair shot, to sort of replicate the chair shot that me and Dreamer did, heard around the world. And so he calls me up on the phone. He tells me, he goes, I found this chair. It's the greatest chair ever. It's a steel chair, he goes, but it's so rattly. It will make so much noise. He goes, I'm checking it as luggage. I remember seeing the thing coming around, the luggage thing with a tag on it. It's awesome. And that thing did make a fucking racket too.
I got a Canyon story. Early, and this was in the him coming out to me days. He came out to me like 13 years before the rest of the world. I was the only person who knew he was gay forever. But he, like I said, he used to he'd overcompensate. Look, you got a wino fucks rats staying at your house. What do you expect to find in the morning, right? Well, I'd come to see. I was supposed to meet him at I was going to a wedding the day. I was supposed to spend a night with him in Florence, so I drove over. But there was a wedding I was going to. So the people having the wedding wanted me to sing and record Joe Cocker's "You Are So Beautiful" for their little wedding vows or whatnot. So I go in a studio and I get shit-faced and I record this thing. Well, then I wind up getting really drunk and I show up at Canyon's house like 3 o'clock in the morning. So he's fucking furious. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing here so late? Get on the fucking couch right now, motherfucker! I had dinner fixed and everything. And there's your cold dinner over there, motherfucker. So I hit the couch and I go, hey man, have you got a tape recorder? And he goes, yeah, I got a tape recorder. And the old school, like the little tape recorder, like not a boombox, tape recorder. So I put this fucking cassette that I've recorded that's supposed to be played at a wedding in the morning in there. I'm drunk as a fucking monkey's wedding. Now I'm buck fucking naked. I've thrown all my clothes off and I'm on his couch like with my legs sprawled up over the top and like I've got his... He loved the New England Patriots, and he had like some kind of New England Patriots throw towel or whatever the fuck it's called. And I'd like have that all up between my nuts and ass like a toga half the time. And so I'm sitting there and I'm I turn this thing up wide open. You know, it's all distorted sounding. It's a shitty little tape player and it's blaring. And I'm playing this song over and over. It'd go to the end. So like I'm drunk and marking out for myself. I go click, rewind. Play it again loud as fuck. Click, rewind. So I'm sitting there passing out and suddenly I hear boom, 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 boom. You motherfucker! You motherfucker! Are you wearing pants? And he picked up the tape recorder and he throws it against the... Well, he punched the tape recorder first. That was the first sound I heard. And he threw it against the wall. And it's, you motherfucker! Are you wearing pants? You better be wearing pants! One more incident! One more incident! I'll throw you the fuck out! You've got your balls on my toe! You motherfucker! Are you gay? Are you... And he's going crazy. And I'm so drunk, I'm like, whatever. So, fast forward. We get up in the morning. I go to the wedding. It's a little ceremony in the house, somebody's house or something. It's not in a church. And so there comes a part in the ceremony where they're holding hands and they're looking at each other and they go and they play, the guy goes, and now we're going to have Jimmy Mitchell's, lovely rendition of You Are So Beautiful for our lovely whatever. And so it starts playing. You are so beautiful. It gets a few lines into it, and all of a sudden, this is at a wedding. You hear, let's do a big PA. Boom! You motherfucker! Are you wearing pants in the middle of a fucking wedding? And the guy who was running the sound had like gone to take a piss or something or shit, and he couldn't get back to and when he came in, it played the whole way through, and everybody looked like they'd been sprayed with shit mist in the fucking wedding. They're just like sitting there. A Canyon goes on a fucking rampage.
I've heard that story 30 times.
You've heard the tape, haven't you?
Yeah, it's hysterical. All right, now about a nice story about Ken.
That is a nice story.
You're his best friend. I'm like what a burial job you're giving.
I'm not burying him. We loved him. That's.
I know. I'm just saying. It's funny. Like it's just like it's like the you don't want to die with Vandy's around. Don't let Vandy come to your wake.
No, but I actually asked him when I managed him into January for a show with Mikey Whipwreck's group. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time I've been around, because I hadn't seen him in a few years. I'd talked to him on and off, but he kind of...
Yeah, it's weird. It's like in this business, you drift apart. It's like you get closer than you wouldn't to anybody in your real world. Like, it's like, friendships in this business become so much closer because you're with each other 24/7, for months, weeks, years at a time. But then you can go months, weeks, and years without even seeing each other. And sure, you can talk on the phone or you can text or whatever, but it's not the same. But the downside is you don't see each other for years. The upside is as soon as you do, it's like you just saw him yesterday.
Yeah, you
fall right into the rhythm,
where you were.
Yeah, which is great.
It's like you put your fucking DVD on pause and took a shower or went on vacation and came back and turned it back on.
Right. I mean, so that's the upside, but the downside is you still,
Is it hotter than a fucking Haitian whorehouse in here?
It's fucking ungodly.
Jesus fucking Knievel.
But it's sad though that you don't see each other for lengthy periods of time. Years at a time. You can go without seeing close friends, and and I'm not a phone person at all. So it's just sad. You know what I mean? It's like. Even though Canyon's gone, I'm going to miss him permanently now. But I've missed him for a long time because I haven't got to spend daily to weekly, monthly time. We used to be on the road together for so many years.
Right.
It's fucked up.
That's the thing that sucked because I noticed over years that he just it was like watching somebody. The only thing I can compare it to is somebody watching a family member who gets Alzheimer's or something and watching them fade away, that you see that person in there somewhere. That's your footrest?
Is there pizza there yet?
That's
your pizza.
No, there's a pizza over there.
There's a pizza over there?
There's a pizza over there. It'll burn the roof off your mouth, Raven.
The roof's on fire.
Anyway, just, he kind of faded away. And you get glimpses of Canyon. So it probably had been, God, I don't know.
Let me see if you're in frame.
I didn't see him in a few years. Yeah, am I in frame?
No, you're in frame. I'd slide a little bit over.
I need to slide over, or you do?
You do, just a hair. I don't know.
Is this a non-smoking house?
You can smoke.
All right, do you have an ashtray?
You could use the can if you want. I don't
All
have an
right.
ashtray.
I can use the can?
It's on. It's on
Oh, I'll
really
use
well.
this can.
It's on, you know, it wasn't on all day, so I put it on 60 now. So.
Got a fan?
I was just telling him it's hot
Neither
as a
does he.
Haitian whorehouse in here.
What were you saying, Vandy?
That it was hotter than a Haitian whorehouse?
No, about about whatever we're talking about.
Yeah, Canyon fading away, not seeing him for a while. But, oh yeah, what I was saying was when I saw him in January, and I managed him for the last time, as Mortis, appropriately enough, it was the first time I'd ever heard him in front of people openly talking about being gay, after all those years of him hiding it.
Unopenly.
And having me procure rats for him, and having to make up lies to the boys, like whatever I did, he'd have me include him in on it. So there's a lot of stories about me and Canyon having gangbangs and shit that didn't occur. He had me throw him on the card, you know, when I told the story. So, but that was my shoot manager job, you know,
right.
protect him. And
Let me tell the story. So, back in the day, you know, I was quite known for being a what's the term they used to use? A cocksman.
cocksmith.
Yeah, a cocksman. Swordsman, whatever. Cocksman. I was quite I had a pretty sordid reputation, and so Canyon knew that you know I would always come back and tell my adventures to the boys because you know boys would want to hear about it, you know, because my adventures were just absurd. They went from the ridiculous to the sublime, and so he's
like the time you had the dildo attachment on your head and were goring the chick.
Yeah, sure.
Our Kidman was nope. Never mind.
There's a lot. I'm married now, so.
Yes, I'm sorry.
And due respect to my wife, though, it's like there's no reason she doesn't need to hear these stories.
Yes,
you know
I understand.
Yeah.
But anyway, put the heat on me.
But suffice to say, though, is so I end up hooking up with some girl, or whatever. This is a long time ago, and so Canyon hooks up with her friend, sleeps with the friend, just because he knew I'd go back and tell all the boys and cover him, and so he'd have a great cover story I was like, yeah, I go, Canyon's not gay. He hooked up with his broad last night.
But the thing was, he couldn't tell the story because he wasn't into it. I mean, if he tried, people would go, oh, Canyon, I heard you got laid. He'd fuck the story up. You know what I mean? Like, even if you screwed if any of the boys screw a skanky rat, they tell it with some enthusiasm. He was like discussing string theory at Yale or something. He didn't because it wasn't his thing. So he kind of would be clumsy about trying to relay the story of him being heterosexual.
And apparently it was quite the like I just figured he had no game whatsoever. Apparently he had quite the game in the fucking gay world. Yeah. Well, he scored him. I mean,
well, he had game. Well, no, he didn't have game in the straight world. But I mean, I was at bars with him where I'd be sitting there talking to him. You know, and
he didn't want to have game.
I'm like on rat patrol and I'm not getting laid, and chick would walk right up to Canyon who's looking at some guy. He's telling me, Vandy, I think my gaydar is going off, you know? And some girl would grab him and take him into a closet and blow him. And he'd be like, he endured it, you know?
He endured it.
I took a shower for 2 hours to wipe that nasty fucking fish off of me.
It's the worst Vandy Canyon impression ever.
But,
what is that?
That's an ashtray.
Don't put it there. That's where my footrest is. I'm going to knock it off, you moron. Well, I got a piece of pizza.
I figured I might hot foot you or something.
Just stick a match in my foot.
Exactly. But if I put it over here, I'm going to drink ashes.
I don't care. That'd be funny.
It never fails.
That's what I was hoping for.
I think Ron Reese one time picked up a beer bottle that somebody had pissed in Buckhead somewhere. Don't know why that's appropriate. What that has to do with anything.
Dude, you're killing me with the smoke, too, now. And the lack of air conditioning. This is hot. This is like Africa hot.
Yeah, I'm in Somalia.
Tarzan couldn't take this hot.
Let's go hijack a ship or something.
Can we go shoot the rest of us on the porch?
Yeah, there's no light. I'll get killed.
Yeah, but
I just fucked my beer. I knew I was going to do it. I just put my cigarette out, my brand new beer. Great.
Good.
Okay.
Go get air conditioning. Go give me
That's what I get for smoking.
Wave me with a palm frond, sir. So Vandy,
yes.
I was thinking, you know, it would be a great name,
What?
like DV, you know, DVH. He was DV Horn. If your last name was Ant, DV Ant, Deviant.
Yeah, sounds like somebody who'd wreak havoc on the Pink Panther or something. Is that the aardvark?
Anyway, so tell me the deal. How'd you get a Daryl Van Horn thing? And tell people what it's about.
Daryl Van Horn, that was because since the time I was a little kid, I always identified
Well,
with...
tell them what it is. I mean...
Daryl Van Horn was...
Look, they may be wrestling fans, but nobody's that big a wrestling fan. They know what Daryl Van Horn was.
Well, they wouldn't know. Nobody knew who the fuck Daryl Van Horn was. That's why you never heard of him. No, that was stolen from the name Jack Nicholson had in The Witches of Eastwick.
But tell me what just... Explain that there was a character. Explain where you worked and all that, because pretend...
Oh, you mean the wrestling character?
Yeah.
Trade? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying first there was no character. I just stole the name because I had a receding hairline like Jack Nicholson, and I'm a devil mark. So I stole the name. And
what movie?
From the Witches of Eastwick with Jack Nicholson and Cher and Susan Sarandon and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Right.
So that's where I stole the name. But there was no form to it. I was just, a guy. I didn't have a gimmick or anything. I was just a guy who talked.
You didn't have a fez yet.
Yeah, I didn't have a fez yet. In fact, Cornette, it was like one of my early mark-out moments before anybody knew who the fuck I was. Cornette did an interview with Wade Keller with the Torch Annual or something in 91 or 92 or something. And I'd sent Cornette a tape. And he never responded to me, but he wrote back. In the interview, Keller was asking if there were any managers that he'd seen that were worth a damn, and he said, well, not really. And he goes, no, there is one guy. His name's Daryl Van Horn, but he looks and dresses a little bit too much like Paulie Dangerously. But if he could change his look up a little bit, I think he'd really be good because he can talk, plus he really wants to do it. So, of course, I freaked the fuck out over that, Xerox it and show it to all my friends. And he called me a couple years later, or a year later after that, to come up to Smoky Mountain. So when he called me up, I'm so nervous, the phone's shaking in my hand, and I'm like, what? I got home, and I got the message Jim Cornette had called, and I totally lost my shit. And I called him, and he said, well, I've got a spot for you. And he goes,
so hot in here.
He goes, we've got a character, he's going to be Prince Karras, and he's a mummy. And I go, really? Well, see, that didn't bother me because I was a mark for all the old Universal monsters, Frankenstein, Dracula, Creature of the Black Lagoon, the Mummy, and all that. And he said, I want you to wear a fez. And I go, oh, you mean like Abdullah Farouk or the Grand Wizard when he wasn't being the Grand Wizard? So I was cool with that. And so anyhow, that was my gimmick in Smoky Mountain, was I was basically visually a knockoff of Abdullah Farouk, who managed the Sheik in Detroit, who was Ernie Roth, the Grand Wizard. But as far as the character, that was like had nothing to do with Ernie Roth, because I was such a fucking drunken degenerate at the time. I would get on
at the time?
Yeah. I would get on television, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I'm on TV, and I'm getting a chance to show off in front of my friends, and like whatever jokes or whatever I'd throw our inside jokes on TV, and not realizing I was listening to the sound of one hand clapping.
Right.
But I said some filthy, foul shit because it was basically
like what? You have it memorized.
No, it's been a long time. I used to get on TV, and Bob Caudle used to freak out.
But who was the guy you managed?
The Mummy, Prince Karras.
But who played him?
Rob Mazey. Who? Rob Mazey. I don't know. He was a 6'9" claustrophobic guy. So when we put him in the mummy suit, well, first of all, they put like a rubber mask, some kind of zombie mask, and they wrapped it with tape. Then they put him in a brand new white gym suit. Then they wrapped it with athletic tape. So he goes out to do the first match on the, not pay-per-view, but the big show, whatever, Thanksgiving Thunder that they did against Tim Horner. And he's so fucking white, and Rob, you might know what I'm talking about here. It used to be on the old days of TV, if something was too white or like a graphic came up, it would burn, it would go, you'd hear an electrical sound. So the minute the Mummy walks out on TV, he's so blind, he's so white, he's blue. The whole time the thing's going, the audio's going, and they've got baby powder on him. So the idea being that when Horner would touch him, smoke would come off him. But he was so white, it was ridiculous. And you really couldn't see him, he was glowing. It was like a solar flare. So after that, we had to dirty him up. So we'd take him and we'd roll him around in the dirt. We'd be in these shitty little high school gyms or National Guard armories, and we'd take him and go, you got to get dirty. Hey, here's an oil slick over here. Get over here and roll around in it. And we'd cut him out of the outfit, right? And then we'd just retape it. But he was claustrophobic, so when you'd put him in it and you'd start taping him up, he'd get in the ring and he'd lose his shit because he couldn't breathe, and he couldn't, his vision was blocked and everything. So I had a claustrophobic mummy. But no, I did like a lot of blasphemous stuff. Bob Caudle, I didn't realize at the time, worked for was it Jesse Helms or something like that, as some hardcore conservative North Carolina cracker douchebag politician. I'm on there again, throwing shit out that has. Looking back on it now, okay, it's very entertaining.
Sure,
it's damn funny. It's performance art. But in terms of wrestling, so much of what I said had no fucking business on there. I just go into my business for myself.
Well, but if you're not in any kind of angle, then it really doesn't matter anyway. Right, you're just there to get entertained to people.
Well, Cornette had told me. He said, "Mummy's not going to get over, so just." Get yourself over.
Then that's what it's for. So that's what,
But I'd get on there. I'd do all this blasphemous shit.
Like what?
Okay, Cornette had told me in the bullet points. He said, talk about Prince Karras and the temple, high priest of the Temple of the Sun, reading from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So that's my bullet point. And I'm going into my ga. And he's Prince Karras, high priest of the Temple of the Sun, who reads from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. The one book, Bob Caudle, that gives you the true mysteries of the universe, that explains all of humanity's issues, unlike that pack of fairy tales you crackers read every Sunday. And Bob Caudle's like, he made a face like, and I got on there. I said so much shit. It was just ridiculous. And the thing was, Cornette said the beauty is you're talking over the audience's head, because these people in fucking bumfuck Tennessee or Kentucky don't even know what you're saying. Because like the rednecks would walk up to me at shows and they'd go, "Hi, Mr. Horn, who learned you?" I'm like, what? Who learned you? I mean, who taught me to wrestle? I don't know. Who learned you? What? Them big words you use. Well, my big words were monostat and shit like that,
Big words were chlamydia.
I used to throw I wasn't even involved in an angle at the time with Dirty White Boy or Dirty White Girl, but I'm just insulting everybody.
Right.
And I was referring to the Dirty White Girl as a parking lot philatrix and a walking yeast infection and the primary test subject for the Monostat Corporation. I went on one time right after Christmas and I said,
was the Dirty White Boy hot, or you think it was funny?
I don't know, and I was too oblivious to realize that I could have gotten heat. I didn't give a shit. I was done. If he would have bitch slapped me, I guess I would have learned my lesson.
And the notice that the stations didn't care?
They didn't know, and they finally. The only time I ever got censored, Cornette called me and he goes, "Well, congratulations, Daryl Van Horn, you finally did it." I go, "What?" And he goes, "You finally got bleeped after 9 months." I go, "What did I say?" And I was sitting in on color. And for some reason, Bob Caudle, which apropos of nothing, says, "Well, I understand you might be managing some tag teams." And I started going off on whoever the tag teams were. And I said, Ricky Morton, because there was some angle with Ricky Morton's dad getting hurt. And I said, "Ricky Morton, if you get in the ring with Prince Karras, you're going to be laid out flatter than your dad." And I said, "And Robert Gibson, if you get in the ring with Prince Karras, he's going to pluck out your one good eye and make you give him a wink job." And so... And you hear on TV, "And Robert Gibson, if you get in the ring with him, he's going to pluck out your one good eye." And then went back in. And then they started running crawlers. The last few weeks I was on there. I mean, it was just always over the top. Either blasphemy or vulgarity, talking about porn people. I'd bring, apropos of nothing, I'd bring up Vanessa Del Rio and Tracy Lords and Ginger Lynn for no fucking reason. Just to hear their names on TV, because I thought it was cool.
Hey, what is Cornette? Cornette just thinks
he loved
funny,
it.
Right?
He popped. He let me get away with it. And I was thinking, I mean, like I said, it's the kind of thing, if I look at it now, if somebody cut that promo for me and I'm in charge, I'd say, that was brilliant. That's funny, and I'm going to keep a copy of that. However, you're not selling the fact that her vagina smells. You're selling a cage match at the Omni.
However, wait, but not. It all depends. I mean, it's like look at Edge and Christian for 6 years. their promos weren't drawing money. They were just there for comedy, to just be comedy promos.
Right.
That was their job on the card. I mean, it all depends. I mean, it's the thing. Everybody goes, well, so they're drawing money. Really, how many people have drawn money? Very few people, what I mean? And percentage wise, 10% of the business maybe.
Are you sure the air conditioning is on here?
It's definitely on.
It's unbroken.
It's going to get cooler upstairs than here.
What do you have it on, a balmy 82?
It's on 60. It'll probably take a long time.
How long does it take for that to drift down here? It's kind of like a slow-moving fart. It's going to take a while to get down here.
But most people are, it's like most people are just entertainment on the card. I mean, Eddie Graham had it right in Florida, though. It was like he booked the card so every match had some value to it. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Obviously it was still the main event. Dusty and Pac Song were still going to draw.
Right.
And even after Pac Song left, they were still going to bring up his name for 20 years.
Sure.
But Dusty and whoever was the draw, and then the next was a semi-main. But the other matches had value to them because because you only have an hour of TV time back then.
Sure.
You have an hour to. You got to get your main angle across. You got to get your characters over. But in a certain sense, if they would have continued to use you, this bizarro character that you were, would have continued, either got heat or would have got over as a babyface, depending on what market you shot it in.
Sure.
Because I did the same kind of crap, like when I was in Florida, Florida Championship Wrestling. I'd go, hey, Gordon, you want to see my impression of Elvis? He'd go, sure. I go, yeah.
You did that shit up in Portland, too.
Yeah, I was the color commentator, so I had an hour and a half of show to just, blab. But I was always about business, too. I'd get business over when business was important, and I would also get my shenanigans over when they were, but there's a blend. I mean...
And the difference was back then I didn't know how to get business over. The business was incidental.
But I don't think you were you were put in a position for that. That's why otherwise Cornette would have made you do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas I was in a position to enhance and to help get business over.
Right.
But it's like, it's funny. I was at a bar a couple years ago, maybe even longer, probably 5 years ago. This guy comes up to me. He goes, "Oh, I remember when you were Scotty the Body in Florida." First of all, I'm like, yeah, no, you don't, because nobody, the farthest anybody remembers me back usually is when I go, I remember when you started, when you first became Raven in ECW, or when you were Johnny Polo or Scotty Flamingo. But nobody remembers, They might remember Portland, but nobody remembers Florida. And my 10 months in Florida, my 2.5 months in Memphis. I don't even remember it. And so the guy goes up. He goes, "I remember you said this. You said something about that you were late, and you told Gordon you were late for the show because you got pulled over by a cop." And he goes, "Hey, it's a one-way street." I go, "It's only going one way." He goes, "Didn't you see the arrows?" I go, "No, I didn't even see the Indians." The guy remembered the entire bit. Like, it's 20 years later, and the guy goes, "I remember it exactly." And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
I don't remember if I told you this, but I was telling you on the way over here. Years ago, when I just started reading The Observer, and I'd been working shitty indie shows that weren't much more than backyard wrestling with a ring, in a dump somewhere for a while. So I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I was smarter than the people I was working with. So I get my hands on the Wrestling Observer, and it's like I'd found the fucking Rosetta Stone or something.
And back then, there's I used to read it. I used to get infuriated because, it was so, all they would put over is high spot guys. It was so bad. Like, at least now you read it and you're like, you can see that they at least understand that, about drawing money. And back then it was just about, oh, we want to see this guy go against this guy. And it's like, it's like they would talk about how great X-Pac was before, when he was, 1, 2, 3 kid, and he'll even tell you that he sucked compared to how he was 10 years later. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or same with Sabu. When Sabu, the better he got, the worse they thought he was. I mean, it's like, they never retracted things. They would never, like, when I first came out as Raven, they go...
That was when they typed them on a typewriter, right?
I guess. So when I first came out, I remember, he goes...
You came out too?
Yes. When I first came out as Raven...
Revelations for everybody today.
when I first came out as Raven, he goes, he looks like a baby Undertaker. That was his whole review of it. That's just the review. Which,
Baby Undertaker?
Yeah, it had nothing to do with it. Didn't look anything like
I thought you were Eddie Vedder.
Right, I'm saying, but that was his review.
Okay.
And instead of like, and then as the thing gets over, instead of going, oh yeah, maybe it isn't just kind of like a ripoff, because that's what it, instead of retracting his fucking ridiculous review, he continued, he just pretended like it never happened. You know what I mean? And it's like it used to be so infuriating because they were so. What it did was it created this whole fan base that would lap at their feet. You know what I mean? Right. They wouldn't think for themselves. They'd be like sheep. They would just go, well, that said it must be good. And it was so far from actually what,
Oh, I was one of those people.
Yeah, I know.
Because here's the thing. The only wrestling journalism I ever got was the aftermags in the 70s. And I knew they were bullshit. So, and you never got any kind of, the only analysis you got of wrestling was either your immediate friend you watched it with,
right, of course,
or the marks in the crowd going, damn, I hate you.
Right.
So I was a mark for the shit, Right. I lived to see a blurb about me back in 1991 in a sheet.
But here's the thing too, and I'm sure it was like if you're outside the business, it's like, wow, I'm seeing behind the scenes, so it's cool. So and you don't know any different, so you're putting a stock into it. And I always felt that they had a powerful voice that they completely misused, and they completely abused because, they created a monster, so to speak, of a whole thought process that it was completely anathema to what this business is about. You know what I mean?
Well, the other thing you've got, and I got to get back to my point why I brought that up. We got way off track.
I don't really care.
But it involves you.
Maybe I'll care.
Yeah, you won't remember this, but I've got a tape of it somewhere.
I definitely don't care.
Hold on. But to me, the other problem is you had wrestlers would call the sheets and they'd lie. They'd get their fucking agenda over.
Yeah, and it's like you can see every top guy talks to the sheets, right?
You can tell who they're you can tell who said what if you're in the business at all.
You can just read. You go, and you can tell every top guy that talks to him. You know what I mean? I just figured that there's no point because.
But at the same time, if you're a journalist and top guy, Mr. X, says, "Oh, here's what happened," well, you would think that is a legitimate source. He's in the company.
But worse than that, though, is and they would have reviews from these other schmucks, who had less knowledge, who had less knowledge than the sheet guys. These were sheet guys removed.
Well, they're sheet weasels. They're like, it was the equivalent of the people that are on message boards now that think they're getting themselves. They use it to get themselves over to be snarky. Yeah. And whatnot. But let me
say, like Bruce Mitchell fucking got kicked out of the ECW arena by Dreamer. Like Dreamer's like, there's no fucking way you're coming back here. Dreamer tossed him. I don't think the guy's ever said a good word about Dreamer since. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but Dreamer must have done at least one good thing in the business since, in the last 15 years. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
they let Jason Powell back there.
Maybe Dreamer's terrible. Maybe he's so horrible. Maybe he couldn't do anything any good. I don't know. I felt he had talent. I thought he's an amazing talent, but the fact that he never did a single good thing in 15 years or 12 years in the business, according to this Bruce Mitchell guy, who happened to get thrown out by him. I'm a conspiracy expert, so maybe.
I think Bruce Mitchell's funny though.
Yeah, and the sad thing is,
I think he's real fucking funny.
The sad thing is, he's actually a good writer, but he's but he's petty. He's conniving.
He's a human being.
No, don't give him that much credit.
Look, I don't talk to Bruce Mitchell. So
stop sucking his dick.
But
the guy's petty. The guy's conniving. The guy's fucking. You know what it is? If you're gonna be a journalist, then be a journalist. But these guys aren't journalists.
He's an editorial guy
But they're all consider themselves journalists. It's like if you're going to be, you either be the New York Times or the National Enquirer, and they're like the National Enquirer, which did pay my way through college, so I can't complain too much.
Let me finish my story where I brought up the Observer.
I don't really care.
I bullshitted a guy. I met a guy, he had a radio station, and was doing an indie show, and the Money Mark paid for me to go in the studio and cut a bunch of promos for his show. And Show goes off well. I hit it off with the guy, and he goes, man, I really like this wrestling thing. I'm going to sell my little radio station and get in the wrestling business. So he does. And he brings in, unlike the other shitty shows in South Carolina, he comes to me and he goes, I really like you, and you seem like a smart guy. And he goes, can you help me with this? And of course I'm like, hell yeah! You know, and then like, instead of getting a $5 payoff, I get a $75 payoff. So I'm like, yeah, I'm great, you know, I'm happy. So
I wanted you to be his booker then.
I wanted me to be his booker. So I get, you know...
and I have to interject again. I hate when you get these companies where these guys are bookers that don't even understand psychology to begin with. And they're like, and the promoter goes, I got to talk to my booker. And the booker's like, you know, Freddie Freeloader, you know, who's been in the business for 3 years.
All of my booking came from I'd read something, some angle that was described that I didn't watch, and I'd go, oh, that's a great idea. And I'd go back to the money guy, and I'd go, I've got an idea, so we're going to put Wahoo and Manny Fernandez in there, and we'll do something, you know, that happened in Mexico or something. But anyway, so I get these phone numbers, and I'm a total mark. I have, you know, I'm a fucking idiot, but I have access to phone numbers that he doesn't. So we brought in, was it North Georgia? Who was it with? Billy Black.
Billy Black, I remember his name.
And Abdullah, and...
No, Billy, you know what's funny?
Bully Busick. We basically brought in that whole crew that you were with. You were Scotty the Body. It's the first time I ever saw you. And
while I was at Global, I think.
It was in Aiken, South Carolina.
I'm saying, but that's when I was working for Global.
Might have been. But you guys were still all working in Georgia, too, or something.
Yeah, because Global was only like 1 day a week.
So we brought you guys in, right? And Abby's there. So...
No, we weren't all working together.
I thought you guys were all on Georgia.
No, we weren't even a group.
Maybe, and here's...
We weren't even a group.
Wait, here's the other hustle. Was I took credit for bringing in the people, but in reality it would be like Billy Black or whoever the fuck I'd talked to, called the guys and got all the guys.
Because Billy Black, for the longest time, there's a guy, Billy Blade, that runs shows out in like the West Coast, and for some reason, it made me think of the guy, Billy Black, on the, you know, that runs from the Carolinas, but I couldn't remember. I was thinking his name was Billy Blade, and I'm like, that's not it. And for the longest time, now that you mentioned it, I was, whatever happened to that guy? I was wondering about that.
Remind me to tell you a funny Billy Black story, but let me finish what I was going to say.
But just tell me, whatever happened to the guy?
I don't know. You guys all showed up late.
We weren't together.
Whatever. But you all basically showed up late, and you all went into business for yourself. And I don't remember exactly what you did. I remember, you know, years ago I saw it on tape and went, wow. But you basically did the exact opposite of what I told you to do. Like, whatever finish we gave you, you guys just went into business for yourself.
Who was in the match?
I don't fucking remember who you were wrestling. It's 1992.
This is some drunken bar story.
No, it's not. But
we weren't together.
That's the first time I ever met you. You were in with that crew. It was Bully Busick, Abdullah the Butcher.
We weren't in together. We didn't work together. Abby didn't work in that Georgia. Like I was going.
It was a bunch of people from Atlanta.
Yeah, but none of us worked together. None of us were in the same company.
Well, that just shows you how stupid I was then, because that's what I thought, and that's how I still remember it now. But you were all from Georgia, and we thought.
Well, yeah, that makes sure.
Right. So and everybody showed up late, and everybody went into business for themselves. Abdullah got us banned from the fucking high school for destroying the school. Okay. Billy Black. I have a funny Billy Black story. When I first got together with Mortis, and Billy Black's only peripheral in this. It's more of a Vandy story. But I was at an indie... No. Me and Canyon and Brian Clark go to an indie show, right? So we're...
Wait. You went to an indie show just to watch?
Yeah. Don't ask me. We got in the car. So, you know, here's the WCW guys hanging around at an indie show in front of, you know, there's 200 people at the indie show at a high school. Well, there's a stage with a curtain on it, like, you know, the ring's over here. There's a stage about this high off the ground, right? You know, for the high school, the junior high, whatever it is, and there's a curtain. And all the boys were behind the curtain. We're all sitting around in a corner. Billy Black was there. I don't think he really had anything to do with it, but it triggered the memory. Or either I'm covering for him, I don't know. But this rat comes walking up, right? And I'm sitting in the circle where, you know, at that point I would have fucked a tree if there was a snake in it, as long as it was 18. So, this big fucking chubby rat, and you know I'm a chubby chaser, comes in with her big ass tits. And she comes around and like one of the guys goes, "Oh, let me see those tits," and she pops them out, and so out comes these fucking pancakes, right? Well, now there's a show going on. There's a match in the ring, and there's a table, right? There's guys down there selling their little Xerox picture gimmicks. Okay, so my back is to the curtain, and I go, "Oh, give me those titties." And I go and I just jump up and start drunkenly sucking these big udders. And I took a step backwards, and I fell through the curtain, and I went to a table. Bam! And I went, boom! Knocked the guy's shit all over the place, broke the table like Sabu, and I jumped immediately back through the curtain, and they're going, "Vandenberg, you stupid son of a bitch, let's get out of here." So we get out of here. So fast forward.
Way to sell the table.
Yeah, years later, I'm in TNA. And David Young is there, and David Young's going, Vandy, I love you, man. I love those Vandy stories, all that crazy shit you did. And he goes, my favorite one was when you fell through the curtain sucking on that rat's tit and busted the table. And I go, yeah. I go, there was this fucking Mark sitting there, some fucking, Mark selling shitty Xerox pictures, and I busted through his shit and all that. And he goes, yeah, that was me. Like, oh, well, he wasn't a Mark. He was a good guy. He was an okay guy.
You had a fight to get that story out.
Yeah.
Well, you just cut off 6 peripheral conversations to get that story. Now we're at a standstill. Let's take a break.
We gotta switch tapes anyway.
We live? Get that picture of Feinstein. Go get that. That's classic. What year is this?
That is probably 1988, 1989.
Let me see that.
He looks like he's auditioning for Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
He's got the tongue out, but there's no painting though. You didn't paint your face.
They ran out of face paint.
He's got a tongue,
face paint,
but he's got a classic mullet. It's outstanding.
That's Paulie Heyman hair.
That is.
It is Paul Heyman.
That is Heyman hair. Exactly. Wow.
I had a picture with him like the same week.
Oh, where were you a Heyman mark then?
Huge, because Piper was gone out of the business.
Right, and he was
the replacement.
He was the new Piper.
Him and Tom Pritchard.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, say it again.
Piper retired from the business for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Paulie came on board, and he was doing the Piper gimmick basically on Danger Zone and all that shit. Remember, he would announce Jim Ross and Lance Russell.
I like that picture up there. Turn the camera up there. The BWO with Tyler Fullington.
Yes.
Holy shit, he looks just like Hack.
Yep, and Oliver looks just like him. The new kid, or the new kid on the block.
Yeah, one of Sandman's kids wrestling Oliver, or one of them.
No, Tyler.
Tyler's wrestling
him. You fucking moron.
But enough of me.
Tyler's like fucking 20 now. Oh yeah, we actually worked.
You worked him?
I think I did a run-in and beat him up, just like I used to beat up his dad. Something like that. I think his dad was drunk and I wrestled his dad and the kid run in. I don't know, something like that. Look at these boots. That's the fucking shoes. These are heat.
Yeah, I wore these to a funeral.
What about ECW and Paul?
I wore those to a boxing match and a hockey game broke out.
ECW and Paul Heyman.
Any thoughts?
I've given my thoughts.
You mean new ECW or old ECW?
Hold on. Let me conduct this thing, you drunken fool.
I'm not drunk.
We talk about chair shots too.
Yeah. I've given my thoughts on Paulie a million times. I think he's brilliant, but Vandy, I don't think anybody's really heard your thoughts on him. And tell us how Paulie came. Paulie pulled you in and hired you, and all that.
He pulled me in through you, somewhat, I guess.
Really?
Well, I had
got more people out that I can't even remember.
I had gotten Paul Heyman's phone number from Barry Horowitz at one of those shows that I'd booked years ago. And I was at Canyon's house, got all liquored up, and I called Paul Heyman.
This is before WCW, right?
Long before. This is like 1993.
No, ECW or an ECW?
This was before I was in fucking Smoky Mountain.
I'm saying, were you in ECW before WCW?
Yes. No, after.
Oh, okay.
After.
Well, then he already knew who you were.
Well, I was sitting around Canyons getting drunk, and we were like drunk dialing wrestlers out of the little black book I had. And, so to be green and stupid again. So I called him, and I don't remember why I did it, and he goes, anybody who stole his name from Jack Nicholson, dresses like me, and talks like Jimmy Cornette is okay with me. So Paul kind of blew smoke up my ass on and off, oh, I can help you out and get you some shit, which never happened. So I get fired from, fast forward, And I used to drunk call him all the time. And you can test that I no longer do that. But back when I used to be drunk 24 hours a day, I was the world's worst drunk dialer. Just repetitive. It was ridiculous. This no longer happens, but it did then. It was preposterous. No, it does not. It does not.
No,
Smell
it doesn't.
my finger. Anyway.
No, yes, it does.
Anyway, so I'd gotten fired from WCW.
Are you in third grade? Smell my finger. What are you in third grade?
Well, I'm with you. How could I not be? It's like a fucking episode of South Park with you
Those are
around.
the 6 hardest years of your life.
Right. So I read in the Torch, Paul Heyman's talking about bringing in Jim Mitchell to manage Mike Awesome because Jeff Jones sucks. And I go,
This is after WCW?
yeah. And I called Heyman, and he didn't, he did his usual razzle dazzle. Who's this? What? No, Paul's not here. And then you called me at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and you said, Bandy, you need to go see Paul Heyman, or call Paul. And I said, I tried to call him. And you said, well, you need to get on a fucking...
Was I already working there?
Yeah, you were there.
I already came back.
You would come back.
I'd come back.
You said you
biggest pop in company history, by the way.
Bigger than Hacks when he came back?
Yeah, Bubba even confirmed it. And that's who's Bubba?
Bubba doesn't confirm many things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If Bubba confirms something like that, it's accurate.
Okay. So
Actually, the best pop though ever, me and Bubba did confirm this as well, which I've always said was the best pop ever though was the Gordy pop. When I'll tell that story afterwards, but the Gordy pop was unbelievable.
So Raven tells me, Vandy, you need to get on a plane and show up in bumfuck Egypt, Pennsylvania, wherever we're going. So
I did.
yeah, so I still
During the lost years.
I was still in the middle of getting some mailbox money. I had another couple and some WCW mailbox money while I was getting paid off. Of course, I sat home for 2 years getting paid anyway.
Why?
Because they had nothing for me to do. My contract rolled over another year or two. So I worked 1 year and I had a 2-year contract, and they just paid me.
You only
for
worked
everything.
1 year?
A little
Why?
over 1 year. I don't because they killed the angle. Bischoff told me when he hired me, when he hired me, and like a week or two later, I went in to sign the contract, and he said, I just want you to know I'm the guy who, this angle's dead in the water, we've got the NWO, this isn't going to go anywhere, don't buy a house, don't get married, I'm going to be the guy to kill managers and tag teams, but we'll give it a shot. And I was like,
That's
great.
Cool of him, though.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I never had a problem with Bischoff.
And the best thing that ever happened was when you and Jimmy Hart started fighting on the apron, and Dusty goes, cat fight, baby, it's a cat fight.
But you told me to start going to the shows. So I'm going.
That's right, I did. I got you your job there.
I'm going to the shows, hanging around. I'm basically being the guy who shows up with his gear, right? And I'm getting on a plane every week. Now, and Paul, he shook my hand, said hello.
Good thing he used the miles.
Yeah, he was.
Unlike the miles you saved up now that just got the Delta 8 because you didn't
they
use
ate
them.
100,000 miles. Anyway, at some point I was paying for the shit out of my pocket every week, and that went on for a couple of months because I think I started coming here in October and I didn't get hired until February. So basically every week I'm hitting the road and going to the shows. And then I was your little rickshaw boy, and I was your bag carrier and your car person, and you hated the way I drove, and you were a pain in the ass, and you were brutal to me nonstop.
No idea, no recollection.
You were fucking brutal to me, man. But anyway, Heyman, I'm at the point where, Heyman's too busy, and he's not talking to me, and I'm like, fuck, I can't afford to keep shelling out, $300-$500 a week. And we were somewhere in Florida, I think in Tallahassee or Jacksonville. And I was walking out to my car. I was like, fuck it. I'm done with the business. I'm not going to get hired. It's all over. I had a little tear coming out my eye. And I'm like, I'm done.
Did you have a little stick with a kerchief?
Yeah.
With all your,
and the Incredible Hulk music. Bill Bixby started playing at the end.
All your worldly possessions in a little kerchief.
And I go and I stick the key in my car and I hear, Vandenballs! And the only people call me Vandenballs were, you WCW guys, but it was a Heyman voice.
Right.
What? Get in here! And that's when he called me in there to do that little angle with you down in the steps or whatever. You were sitting in the steps somewhere. It was. Remember, we were going to do a gimmick. We were going to do a gimmick playing off of Brian. Who was the guy from the Beach Boys? Brian, not Johnson. Brian Jones.
No.
Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys,
Right.
who got ripped off by Eugene Landy, and I was going to be
the therapist.
I was going to be, yeah. He totally ripped him off, and he had him playing in a sandbox. And you had pitched this idea. We talked about it at lunch one day, and they started to do it, but they never followed up on it.
How'd they start it?
I was talking to you because you were losing your shit and you were becoming more infantile-like, and I'm talking to you, and Heyman walked in there. Scotty, what the fuck are you doing with this asshole? Get the fuck out of here! I mean, that was my debut. Get the fuck out of here, you loser! You know, and he's telling you, don't listen to that scumbag. And I thought we were going to go into me, and you were going to call me Eugene Vandy, but that didn't happen. And like we started heading that way for about 3. It's weird because sometimes I'll pull. You know,
I don't even remember this.
Nobody watches their VHS tapes anymore, right? So I've got tons of VHS tapes that aren't marked. Every once in a while, I'll pop one in looking for some fat girl porn or something, and this early shit will pop up, you know, and I never remembered it happening, you know, like my memories started at the red suit, and. But the way I became the Sinister Minister was due to him, kind of.
So what happened out of this?
Okay, you remember, I got up, I'm trying to get noticed by Paul, right? And you had told me, he gave me the best advice I'd ever been given. He said, Vandy, he goes, you said,
I'll tell you, if you want to be a star, you got to look like a star.
He goes, on a promo scale, he goes, you're like an 8.5 or a 9 or a 10. And he goes, you know, as far as like portraying your shit, you're right there, but you don't look like a star. He goes, and basically you told me I look like Todd Gordon or something like that, which I did. And
fat Todd Gordon.
Yeah. And you said you want people to notice you in an airport. You want people, when you walk into any room, to say, who is that guy? And so I went back and I thought about it and I said, okay, well, you are all the good gimmicks are some extension of who or what they are, right? And Raven was an exaggeration, but not by much, of the fucking degenerate scumbag you were for those years.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so I was like, well, okay, I've been called the devil since I was a little kid. You know, I'm a trickster.
Right.
I'm all about Bugs Bunny and Wile E. Coyote and
Raven E. Coyote, super genius.
And so I was like, okay.
That's what it says on my business cards.
And
Raven E. Coyote, super genius.
And I looked up on my wall.
You're not selling. You don't sell anything.
I'm not selling your shit. I'm trying to tell a story. Me and him trying to talk together is like two motherfuckers on coke.
I'm not even trying to talk. I'm just trying to.
Each other.
I'm not even trying to talk. I'm just trying to throw in some sidebars, and you're just running them over.
Running over them, right?
Horrible.
Just like you run over mine.
Horrible.
So, anyway,
I'm feeding you material.
All right, now I'm getting fucking lost. Oh yeah. All right. So there's this artist named Coop who draws little devils and shit. You've seen the stickers all over the place. I look at the thing on my wall and I go, well, I'm going to grow the beard. Then I go out and I buy the reds.
You didn't have the beard?
No, I didn't. I was starting to grow it.
What did you have in WCW?
Just Todd Gordon. I was Todd Gordon.
What do you mean?
I just a bald guy with the beard. I didn't have this.
Oh, okay. You didn't have the.
I wore the same.
Didn't Daryl Van Horn have that?
No. But before I got the red suit came as like a week after this happened. I wore the black suit, the old Daryl Van Horn.
You still haven't told me what happened to our angle.
The angle got dropped, but the way.
Why?
It evolved into something else. I don't. Or maybe
what did it evolve into?
Maybe you quit.
What did it evolve into?
It evolved into me and Mikey because I think you left.
No, I was still there.
You weren't there long.
Yeah, I was.
You weren't there long. You were gone by like April.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think like you and Mike Awesome won the tag team titles and you were gone.
Well, no, I was trying to leave for a while. I was really unhappy.
So anyway, I'm traveling with you, and I was wearing my regular solid black suit, but I had bought a clerical collar.
Okay.
And we were sitting at breakfast at like 7 o'clock in the morning somewhere up north, and I put the clerical collar on, and we're all sitting around. So there's a bunch of tattooed motherfuckers to begin with that everybody's staring at, and then there's me. Now, other than the ponytail, I look somewhat normal, but I've got a clerical collar. So all the waitresses are being very nice to me. Oh, thank you. You know, they're kissing my ass so they can get some Jesus points or something. But the place sold wine, and I ordered 2 bottles of fucking wine while we were having breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm slamming down white Zinfandel. And
I was there for this?
Yeah, this is where the idea came from. I'm sitting there getting drunk just trying to pop the boys, and, with the clerical collar on. And the waitress came over and you went, "Hey, Padre, don't you think it's a little early to be hitting the hooch?" And we told Paul, and he popped, and Paul went, "Perfect! The Sinister Minister!"
I remember that.
And
I remember that.
And so then I turned the red shit on. But dealing with Paul, to answer your question, and then because
oh wait, before you get to that, which leads me to my favorite thing when you decide they had you throwing the fireballs, right? And so Vandy gets this contraption that shoots fireballs instead, right? So I forget exactly the details, but it's I don't know if it was at my urging or not, but Vandy packed in like 16 times the amount you're supposed to, and then shot a hole through his stomach.
I just watched that. So.
And blew the tip of my hand off. Finger.
How did that go again? I forget.
Story. I mean, do you want me to repeat a story that's all over the place? I mean, you can find it on YouTube. I don't want to cheat good listeners. Yeah, I nearly killed myself.
It was hysterical.
That was good. But no, dealing with Paul, when I first got to ECW, it was weird because there were no rules. You know what I mean? The referee shit didn't matter. You could just run in the ring and do whatever you wanted to do. I mean, and it took a while to get used to it. And I came to Dreamer. I said, "Dreamer, I'm like trying to cheat, and there really is no cheating. The only way to get heat is to be a babyface, And but working with Paul was cool. I mean, to me, my biggest nightmare. Here's the thing that sucks. All the people that help me out generally don't like each other. A lot of Cornette and Heyman don't like each other. Russo was good to me. I mean, there's things Russo does I don't like, but he was good to me. He gave me good opportunities.
Russo and Cornette don't get along.
They don't get along. Heyman, you know what I mean? If it was my funeral tonight, nobody'd come. Because they
I don't know. I would have came. I'd have jerked off right in your face.
Yeah, you would have bukkaki'd me in my fucking casket.
I'd have jumped in a casket, pulled the lid down, and stuck my dick in your mouth.
You would have pulled a Katie Vick on me, right in front of God in heaven.
I'd have pulled a Katie Dick.
But no, working with Paul was cool. It took me a couple weeks, but the thing with Paul that was cool was my self-esteem had been, I'm an artsy-fartsy guy. I'm not a jock guy, believe it or not. Not don't believe I'm not a jock, but I'm actually, believe it or not, I have a sensitive artist neurotic temperament, So my self-esteem had been totally fucking shattered in WCW, boo-hoo, and Paul was really good at. He blew all the sunshine up my ass that made me, you know what I mean?
Paulie was Vince Lombardi.
He was the fucking best.
The
fucking best.
People today probably don't know who Vince Lombardi is because, but that was his analogy. He used to say to me, he goes, and that's what he was. He goes, I'm Vince Lombardi. He goes, he could motivate anybody to do anything. He could convince you to run your head through a brick wall if if there was a reason for it, and he could come up with one, he'd get you to do it. I mean, you wanted to win for him. You wanted to win the game.
No, I mean, I loved Paul, man. He was cool and he's smart. I mean, I wish. Somebody asked me once, what would you like to get from Cornette or from Heyman, and what could they learn from you? Well, I said what they could learn from me was to be a cooler looking action figure than either one of them. But as far as what could they learn from you? I said how to be a cooler looking action figure. Meaning that
crickets.
Crickets. I wasn't trying to get a laugh. But they said, what could you? I said I would like to learn from Cornette his not give a shit, say what he wants whenever he wants to say it. He doesn't give a shit. He's going to say it. And Paulie.
Yeah, but it's also that comes with a certain bit of clout, though. I mean,
yes.
Cornette. First of all, he doesn't care anymore, so he can say it. Second of all, he had put 20 years in the business before he could, say what he wanted.
Oh, really? He wasn't doing that shit?
I'd imagine. I mean, maybe he was, but I imagine he wasn't saying that to watch.
But I mean, I admire
I do too.
In this sleazy business and bullshit business where somebody just says, you don't have to... Cornette's not going to lie to you. Now, Paulie will bullshit you. Now, usually he'll bullshit you to the good. Right. He'll tell you you're great when you suck because the greater good is that it makes you better, and he doesn't drag you down. But Paulie is so smooth. You know what I mean? And he's not just a great performer, but like he's a business guy. I'm not a business guy at all. I fucking suck at business. You know, I just want to perform. But Paulie, regardless, and Paulie is a bullshitter, and I guess he would admit he's a bullshitter, but he's possibly the best bullshitter there's ever been. And he gets shit done.
But let me rephrase. Let me change that a bit though. First with the Cornette thing, like I'm the same way. I'm gonna just tell you what I think. You know what I mean? It offends some people, some it doesn't. I mean, but to me at least, like like Molly Holly, like she would always come to me to see what how her new outfit looked, because she goes, I know with you're gonna tell me the truth. If it looks stupid, you'll tell me it looks stupid. You know, I mean, you may not agree with my opinion, but she always knew she was getting an honest one, and so do all my friends do. You know. I could have always tempered it a little better in the past, but that wasn't who I was then. But now I try to at least, tell them, hey, you did a great job, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is what sucked.
Right. Yeah, but, whereas your bedside manner used to really suck.
No, there was no bedside manner.
No, it was just straight prison sex.
Yes, it was tombside manner.
You'd walk in and rape the fucking locker room.
Anyway,
you guys don't get the business. You don't get it. You don't get it.
But look, I mean, to me, that's the only way to learn. But the thing is so I like that approach. I would much rather that. I used to like Ole Anderson would come in and he would tell you, he goes, listen, you suck. You're an asshole, this and that, but you could do this, you could do that, but that sucked and this sucked and blah. So I like that. I want someone to tell me the truth. I don't want someone to tell me something that isn't so. I don't ever want to be delusional where I think that I'm doing better than I am, or that somebody that I think I'm better than I am, or any capacity like that. With Paulie, what Paulie was so great at though is see, the bullshitting thing, that had nothing ever to do with business. You know what I mean?
Right.
It never had anything to do with business. It was always absurdities like, what's the FedEx number? You know what I mean? He'd give you the FedEx number, but it was missing one, and so which one is it? Pick one, But it had nothing to do with business, and he never, ever, ever lied to the fans, because he understood business. His credibility he understood business, and he was the only one smart enough to legitimately take himself off TV.
Sure.
How many people owned a company? Name one company where the guy owns a company, where they're not on TV. Everyone, because you know what? They now have control. They're putting themselves on. What did he do? He did he's Bobby Fischer. He did the last move anybody expected of him, and he took himself off TV. And frankly, he didn't do it to make a move or anything. He did it because he didn't want to be on TV, because he knew that what he does best is motivate and produce and film and shoot. And he does, and for him to be on camera takes away from all that, because it takes away his time. And really, he had no interest. He's been there, done it, seen it.
Right.
Got the T-shirt, threw up on the T-shirt, bought another T-shirt, shit on that, threw it away. Vandy picked it up, got it autographed, and hung it on his wall. It's one of those deals. So, to me, that to me is one thing right there. And and then. And maybe I'm just a huge Paulie defender, but then people always go, well, if Paulie was such a great booker, how come the company went out of business?
They all go out of fucking business.
Well, I was going to say, every company has gone out of business.
Every fucking company.
Every company's gone out of business. Every booker's booked their company into the toilet. And the thing is Paulie went against two multi-million-dollar companies without a pot to piss in. You know what I mean? So the fact that he was even able to compete and to have a legacy from that it's mind-boggling compared to. So anybody who thinks, well, he didn't he booked it into where they lost money. Well, first of all, how could you compete with Ted Turner and Vince McMahon at that level, and especially when they would steal all your talent, you know what I mean, pay him a lot more and take him away, so you couldn't. It's not like he was able to keep his talent. And also, after all that, after 6-7 years of it, of course he's going to get burnt out. He got burnt to a crisp, you know what I mean?
Right.
And he got, and nobody should be booking any company for more than a couple, put it this way. Back in the day, if you're a smart company like Jerry Jarrett, he would book 6 months. Jerry Lawler would book 6 months. Nobody booked a year straight because you'd run out of ideas, But Paulie had, I would say, 2 to 4 solid years of just brilliance before the end of ECW.
94.
Right before I got there. Right when I got there. Right before I got there.
94 to about 99.
Well, it was 90. Okay.
98.
When did I get there? 95.
You got there around 95.
I got there, when I got there, I think things coalesced, and I think while the 2 years I was there were the 2 years where they literally. We were the innovators. I mean, we were the creators. We set the tone for everything else, and everybody else copied us.
Oh yeah, WCW, WWE ripped you guys off all the time.
I mean, Paulie set up a wave, and then I happened to be lucky enough to come in and jump on the top of the surfboard right at the thing and just ride the wave all the way right to the pay-per-view, and then right off to the next wave.
Let me ask you, just culturally speaking, I don't know if either he co-opted the name from somewhere else. But everything was suddenly extreme. Not just all the knockoff wrestling companies, but suddenly everything was extreme sports, extreme energy drinks. Was he the first guy to bring the term extreme into the public consciousness?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know, but I do branding
know,
something.
I don't know, but I do know that Stevie was the first one to bring the Stevie kick and the Stevie bomb. And I love that kid.
Is he still working with TNA?
Yeah, I think they're still using him. I mean, I know he's still with them. What a talented motherfucker he is. Just New York fucked him so bad. They paid him just enough that he couldn't quit. They'd be stupid to quit.
Right.
But because they knew how much he wanted to work, they wouldn't book him.
Right.
Oh, it's just scumbags.
What are your feelings on
I want to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
You know what I hate about this business is, there's two companies. It's like, it's so sad that you can't do what you want when you have the skill to do it. Like the old territory days, you could go someplace else. You could wrestle till you're 55, 60 if you had any kind of fucking talent, and as long as you could still move well. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, you didn't have to be able to move, like amazingly, but if you could move pretty decent, you were working for, little Sputnik Monroe, guys like that. And especially, so I don't know. It just sucks because now I'd love to be able to still go back to a different territory every couple months, every 6 months, instead of there's no way I'm going back to Vince, and Vince isn't taking me back in. So, I've got one place, TNA, where I'm happy at when they're using me, but it's I got one option, you know what I mean? And that's not, that sucks, you know what I mean? I want to be able to, and especially, look, I may be high on myself, but I think I got a pretty good skill level. My psychology level is unbeatable. My promos, I mean, they haven't changed, so it's like, I can talk people in the seats, but what happened to the concept of drawing money? That doesn't even exist anymore. People, we were talking about earlier in the thing, but people don't even care about drawing money now. They just cut promos to cut promos up and down the card, and they don't even shoot angles to draw money. It's just like
TNA used to have me do money promos on the pay-per-view, not on the week before or the 2 weeks building up to it. I'd do the money promo, and it would be on the day you've already bought the pay-per-view. So what, you know what I mean? But I would, because I'd want to use some of that shit earlier. No, you don't want to go there. You don't want to go there. And then on the day of the pay-per-view, then I'd do it, which it makes no sense. What were you starting to ask, Rob?
No, I was going to ask you guys, what do you think about WWE's new policy with chair shots, banning chair shots to the head?
I think it's a good idea.
I got a couple thoughts on it.
I don't mean permanently banned, but if you do them, first of all, from a psychology standpoint, in my opinion, I remember as a kid, okay, or you remember when Larry Zbyszko hit Bruno in the head years ago with a chair.
When it meant something.
And it sold out fucking Shea Stadium.
The chair shot did not sell it out.
Well, it was the turn, but I mean, still, a chair shot was not common.
But it's that you can't go back.
Well, look, I mean, but look, you can get on TV. There's been times I watched fucking TNA or WWE and ECW at certain times, and there were chair shots.
But that's not why he's talking about. But he's not talking about.
I was saying, first of all, from a psychological standpoint, I think I wouldn't say get rid of them. Period. I'd say use them once or twice a year, maybe, for the person who's crazy enough to go, I'm willing to risk it, and I know I'm getting.
First of all, if you know how to throw a chair shot, it doesn't hurt. Yeah. That's the thing, is nobody knows how to throw a chair shot without hurting a guy. It shouldn't hurt. First, if you know how to bump and you know how to throw one, if you know how to throw it correctly, you can pull it in such a way where the guy is not getting fucking clobbered, okay? That's A. That's how they did it in the old days. B, if you know how to bump, you know how to time it, you see the rhythm. You ever see The Rock take a chair shot? perfect. It's like fucking watching. No, yeah, well, just there's because you would go to block it. There's just the mannerism to cover in case there's a gap, and it's like boom, and you're bumping and you're down. That's if you. But
the problem is, think how many of these people like Abyss who just tell you to beat the fuck out of their head with a chair, and vice versa.
And it's sad because it's kind of like the X-Pac thing. X-Pac used to do 8 million high spots as the 1, 2, 3 kid, destroyed his body, and then when he learned how to work, he'd do a couple in a match, and all of a sudden he wishes he could have gone back and done it the other way. Same with Saturn. Saturn fucking used to kill himself doing all this crazy shit. And then when he finally, it was actually kind of ironic, finally I convinced him to stop doing it. And he goes after this week, he goes, starting next week, I'm not going to do them. And then that very night he went out and fucking blew his leg out. Remember when he had the whole giant leg cast and shit? Right. And so he was going to quit the next week. So it's ironic. But it's people, you can't tell somebody at a certain point in their career because, you just can't. You can't understand no matter what they're telling you. You're like, yeah, but that's you, not me. You have to learn it yourself. You know what I mean? Sure. So there's no way. Sometimes you can protect people from themselves, but you can't. If that's what they want to do, that's what they're going to do, and you can't stop them unless you actually decide to, lay the law down and stop them. Otherwise, they're going to do what they want to do.
Right.
As far as chair shots and whatnot, look, Canyon was manic depressive before he ever got to wrestling. He was manic depressive. The signs were already shown in college.
Right.
I'm sure the chair shots didn't help. I think a lot of stuff that there's a lot of other factors though with is the fact that the grind of the schedule is relentless. And there's no time off. There's no release. It's so physically demanding. 5 days a week, you're just killing yourself. And then when you're home long enough just to wash your underwear and go back on the road. So there's no time for emotional, physical release. Frankly, if they forced everybody into mandatory therapy, that would do more than anything. But so that's going to wreak havoc in your brain. The fact that, all the medications you have to take to survive, that's going to wreak havoc. All the bumps you take, that's going to wreak havoc too. But, it doesn't mean the chair shots by and large. I mean, look, if chair shots were that fucking bad, just to make a point, then how come people weren't going fucking Looney Tunes fucking 20 years ago?
They knew how to give them and they knew how to take them. Now they don't. Now dumb fuckers just get hit in the head wide open with chairs more often than not because they want it to look good for TV.
But that's because they don't know how to work.
Exactly.
I know. But I'm saying, but I don't think everybody knew how to work back then. So I mean, I'm sure there were lots of guys, but I think it does contribute quite a bit. Look, the jury is still out. I mean, Benoit was he was a tightly wound motherfucker to begin with. You know what I mean? I'm sure he had problems going way back. You know what I mean? You can't throw it all on one thing, but by the same token, it's one of those things that should be lessened dramatically. It should be used when necessary by the right people, done the right way. But unfortunately, that's never going to happen because people are going to do what they want to do, and people suck. It's like it's kind of, as to make a silly analogy, but it's like you have two shitty guys back in the day when they would have squash matches. And the winner would be the squash guy, and one guy would be the squash guy. And then they'd have booked the two guys against each other, but they both sucked, and they were going to have the worst match. Why would you put them against each other?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, so they give everybody back in the day on TBS, everybody would get a 2-minute promo. Right. Why was a guy who couldn't talk getting 2 minutes and Jake Roberts only getting 2 minutes? Why wasn't Jake getting 7 and this guy getting 10 seconds and this guy getting none?
Right.
Because people do stupid shit. People are sheep and they follow what happened before, and so bookers or creators or whatever, they just do what they think people like, or what has happened, or what's worked, or what's this, and instead of using creative ways to work around subjects.
What do you think about, and here's like one of the things I hate. I don't think anybody knows how to do a fucking promo anymore, and I think sports entertainment has fucked that up. Okay, in the old days, you would have your top guys. They were your money guys. You had Dusty, Flair, Blackjack Mulligan, whatever, the people I grew up with. They were your money promo guys.
You grew up with them? Neighbors?
Yeah, we went to school together and everything. Used to rob banks and shit. Anyway, and then you'd have your mid-card guys, and they kind of did their mid-card level promos, and they only did them for so long. They didn't get 2 minutes.
No, they did.
You'd get 4, what they used to call them in Crockett was young lions in the 70s. You get Tiger Conway Jr. and I don't know, Bill Monty and young Ronnie Garvin or Lanny Poffo all standing around, and they'd all get like 10 seconds to talk. Right, real quick, and they'd get out, and then people who couldn't talk, if they got on TV and stunk it up once, you didn't see them. Now with sports entertainment or whatever the fuck scripted promos, you take somebody who can't talk and you shove them down the people's throat. My feeling is if you can't talk, then get the fuck off of the microphone. You're eating up time that could be used, and that's not.
But that's not their fault.
Right, it's not their fault. It's the promoter's fault because you should have enough sense to know when you've got a guy who goes, I mean, you've seen the promo. I mean, every indie guy does it. I did a seminar for Mikey Whiprep's group on how to do promos at the end of January. The event was closed. You son of a bitch! Can you feel it already?
I want to raise.
That's going to cost you some DVDs.
How much time?
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
But you get these guys.
Feels like fucking hour with this heat.
All the indie guys that they're not. There's nobody to learn from really anymore because even the people who can talk are saddled by the scripted promos, and somebody who can talk who's given a script, it fucks them up because I can't write a Raven promo any more than you can write a me promo. I could give you bullet points and vice versa, but when you've got somebody who's got talent, they need to run with it. So then you've got people, and then they try to make them actors. Now think why is, and I think this has something to do with wrestling kind of dropping down business wise too. Okay, 2 people who'll get into a fight. I walk into a bar and I say, your mother's a fucking whore and I fucked your sister in the ass and she looks like a pig. Okay, if that were to offend you, maybe it wouldn't. But if it did, would your response be like, people walk into the back of the locker room and they go, Raven, tonight we will meet for the Intercontinental title. And I will promise you this. And the other guy goes, yes, but you do not understand. For it is everyone here in World Wrestling Entertainment who knows that I am the light, and that's horse shit.
So true.
That's horse shit. No, if I walk up to you and insult you, what are you gonna do? Call me a motherfucker and go, oh really, motherfucker? Let's go. I'm gonna kick your ass. That's an emotional response. So instead, and if you were in a bar, if you watch 2 guys in a bar, and what happens when 2 guys get in a fight? Oh, I'm kick your ass, motherfucker. No, motherfucker, I'm kick your ass. I just fucked your wife, by the way. Okay, that's exciting. Okay, what would you do?
Was it exciting that the guy fucked his wife?
Yeah, because he watched. What would you do if you saw 2 guys in a bar? Right? Now, everybody loves a good bar fight. What would you do if you saw 2 guys in a bar standing up to each other going, wait a minute. I will tell you what. Everyone knows that the light that shines from above will reveal that I am the one who shall win this fight today. And the other guy says some shit like that. Everybody's going to go, fuck you, and walk off and leave.
No, I would pop so huge.
That's
but not for the right reason.
It's fucking horrible. So nobody has anybody to learn from anymore. Because wrestlers aren't actors. Even the best of us are improv guys.
I'm an actor.
Okay. Oh, you're an actor.
I am. And I'm an improv guy.
But you're taking.
No, wrestlers are no. Most wrestlers are not improv guys.
Even if they were actors, you don't have
but they're not
time to
improv
learn.
guys. But they're not improv guys either. Most people have no skill in that area.
Right. And look, even with Saturday Night Live, they have a fucking week to rehearse the shit that they do on Saturday, and they still have cue cards. So you've got a guy who's got a match to do, right? He's got to worry about, because now wrestlers don't know how to fucking work either, so they've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G spot back to back to back to back, and they got to get their shit in. So they're worried about that, and then they're given 29 fucking pages to learn, and so they're walking around. You see wrestlers in the back, and they're doing their little kung fu shit. They're going, and they're trying to. You've seen them. They're like, yeah, this, boom, boom, boom.
Well, explain what that is.
And then
explain what that is.
It's the wrestlers going through they're rehearsing in their mind the A, B, C, D
of their match.
And they can't swing. they're not playing jazz.
So they're going, well, no, but regardless of the jazz, they've set it up in the back, so they're just going, instead of just going in their mind going, this, they're going,
and you just see them, they throw their leg up and they do this. And then while they're doing that, they're trying to walk around while they're doing that, and they're going...
No, they don't do it at the same time.
I've seen some people do it.
You can't do it at the same time.
Even if you are giving it, unless you are a goddamn savant like some of us are, you cannot give somebody a fucking script and expect them to learn this much shit right here, right? I've seen scripts that fucking long. Now, I want you to be ready in 45 minutes and do this, and not sound like, even if you have learned all your words, I want you to know, Samoa Joe, I will not stand for what you have done. That's how they fucking sound, at best, because they're trying to remember the shit. Whereas if you just said, look, Rob, here's the deal. You're fighting Raven. Raven's got you in a cage, and what are you laughing at?
No, I said that son of a bitch.
Yeah, Raven's got you in a cage, and there's a $25,000 bounty on your head, and the bottom line is I want you to say that you promise everybody you're going to walk out of there. You've got 2 minutes to do it. Freestyle! Because all you've got to remember...
Except the reason that it started happening, we started having writers, is because the guys could not cut promos.
Then they shouldn't have been given promo time.
No shit.
Right, that's my point.
I agree with you 100%, but that's how it happened.
Right.
And then what happened was, from there, it got to the point where the writers got full of themselves, got power, and that's how they keep the power, by writing for everybody. And so it's
horrifying.
But that's how they got the power. Do you think they want to give it up because they don't want to be seen as not being necessary?
I have seen guys who
You're missing the point, though. They're never going to relinquish that power because that's going to cost them money. Sure. So of course they're going to keep the picture painted that they have to do that.
So those aspiring workers out there that are watching this, let me give you some good fucking advice. You better learn how to cut a promo and watch masters of the promo. And then once you're good at it, if you are good and you've mastered your craft, when they give you this shit, you can look at it and you can go, okay, so basically what you're telling me is the cage match at the Omni at 7 o'clock, loser leaves town. And I've got 2 minutes. And if they trust you, then you can do your own thing and you can rise above the material. But if you don't, you are fucking doomed. And I have seen people, I've seen it on TNA, the most counterproductive shit I've ever seen. I won't mention names because I don't want to cast aspersions on our fellow colleagues that are out there doing what they're told. But I have seen wrestlers who came in there who were hot shit and they did good promos in their own style. And they didn't have to use a lot of words. You can figure out who it is or not. And then they turn somebody into a complete pussy saying things that would never come out of their mouth. It would be like, okay, if Dusty Rhodes, if you gave him what was the to be or not to be? That is the question. Okay. If you give Dusty Rhodes, then you ask him to learn the to be or not to be thing. And then
Shakespeare?
He's got to learn it. And then because he's got to absorb all this shit and be on deck in 40 minutes or 30 minutes. To be or not to be, that is the question. Is it not more noble to... Whereas, if you just said, Dusty, here's the deal, to be or not to be, and the bottom line is you're trying to say, what's life worth working? And then you can get on there and you can start going, to be or not to be, that is the question. I'm going to tell you what, I've worked a long time, and I'm tired of thinking about this, and I'm wondering, is it all worth it? Because that's the bottom.
I was offered up my innocence, and I was repaid in scorn.
I have left my body, pieces of my body all over the arenas in the United States, and you can sum up all the same shit in his same fucking way.
My favorite line is still, I offered up my innocence and I was repaid in scorn.
You know what my favorite Dusty was? Actually, it was bad, but it was so bad it was great. Do you remember the cold-blooded sausage maker?
No.
Dusty's cutting a promo and he's like, it's like, I guess he got, I don't know, you'll have to look it up on YouTube. It's funny. He's talking about, I forget who the angle's with, but he's going, I used to tell my daughter a story about the cold-blooded sausage maker. There was a bunch of little piggies running through the woods, and there was a cold-blooded sausage maker, and he used to catch the little piggies and kill them cold. And I used to tell my daughter about that, and her eyes get all big. And so he goes on with the promo, and he goes, so Tully Blanchard, or whoever it is, I is the cold-blooded sausage maker. Like, what the fuck? I is the cold-blooded sausage maker. I don't know what that. And it's like I don't know, but it was Dusty's the kind of guy. And see, that's the thing. When you've got somebody who can talk, you can say nonsense, and it's brilliant.
But it wasn't complete nonsense. He made a point.
I mean, he made a point. He got lost.
But let me say this
but
too.
He was Dusty.
But part of it
if
also
somebody handed him a script, he would have fucked it up.
Yeah, but
because he doesn't need to do it.
But part of it also
He's got talent.
Can I speak?
Yes.
But part of it also is most people are fucking two-dimensional or one-dimensional cookie cutters that they have nothing to say anything. You know, they have nothing about them to say, and there's nothing for the writers to write for them. You know, like Russo was always cool with me. Russo would always hand me material, and he'd say, change it if you want. But a lot of times he would he would nail my voice. I didn't have to think about it. So I was like, you know what? I'll use this, this, and this. Some days I'd use all of it because, hey, if I've got something written for me that says exactly what I need to say anyway, I'll say it. Or if I some days I change it all. Some days I change none. But my voice was so, you know, it's if you're intelligent, my voice isn't difficult to write in. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's cool. You know what I mean? By the same token, your voice. I don't know. I never really thought about doing your voice, but
nobody ever gets my voice right when I try to do it because they put all this shit. See, left to my own devices, I don't talk about heaven and hell and demons and shit. I don't because I think it's better for people to go, look at that weird guy. Is he a devil or something?
Why would they think you're a devil? That makes no sense.
That's better.
That's idiotic.
That's better than having. But people will write for me and it'll be verbally ornate bullshit.
I know.
Sometimes it'll be like, when the heavens above, and
but you're missing a point.
Shit.
You're missing a point. But if you have,
that's the way they hear me in their head.
I know. Well, that's a shame because they're not listening, or maybe you just suck. But you know what I'm saying though is, so it's But even so, I would still rather write all my own material. But then again, look, if the writers are going to be there, at least the fact is, when Russo writes, he gets my voice. So I'm like, hey, I'm not going to complain. But I am also given liberty to go off the reservation and say whatever I want to say, as long as I hit the bullet points. Which ultimately, to me, it all boils down to this. You know, if somebody can talk, give them time. If somebody can't talk, give them no time. You know?
I mean, Russo always let me do whatever not whatever I wanted to do.
I had to convince you of that.
But yeah, when he first came in, I was pissed off because I saw this script about.
And I had to tell you that you could go off the reservation.
And I was like, no fucking way, because I'd been given.
But you'd have done it. But you'd have done it. You did do it. You did it for a few weeks, and I kept telling you, I go, you don't.
Did I do it word for word?
Yeah.
I don't think I did it.
Yes.
Word for word.
For a long time.
I know I went to Terry Taylor.
You went word to word for quite some time.
Terry Taylor was saying, quit being paranoid. He said, just sit back and let it go.
No, you went word for word for quite some time, and I kept telling you every week. I go, listen. Go off the reservation. He's not going to care because your material's good. Just hit the bullet points, and then eventually you got enough balls up and you did it.
So basically I would take what he gave. I could go to him and say, okay, now I'm taking what you gave me. Are these your bullet points? Boom, boom, boom. Good. I'll see you in an hour. And it was easy for me to work with him, but for a lot of people it wasn't because they couldn't.
I think a lot of people were just. I think that deep down. Is not only they be
shit.
I'll put it this way. Some people didn't give a shit, but I think most people did. But I think a lot of people that were given bullet points that should have done their own shit with it. They didn't have the fucking the material. They couldn't come up with the shit.
Right.
And so they used as an excuse. The office is writing shit for me. The office is writing it, so I got to do what they say. But really, I think it boiled down to the fact that they couldn't come up with they were too, not good enough, or were too scared to come up with their own stuff and use that as a cop out.
Hey, Rob, can I get a sample of that chocolate wine you were telling me about?
Not a problem. We got 2 minutes anyway, so go.
Do you need a wine enema? I need some water. I need some water is what I need.
Talk about what?
What do you think it will take TNA to get to the next level? Do you think they're on the right track?
I think they were on the wrong track.
Yeah, except wait a minute. You have to give the time of where you're at. Some guy could watch this in 6 months and be like, huh?
Hogan just came to the company about 2 months ago, and the ratings are now like a 0.9.
No, they were at, what was it, a 0.56 last week?
Yeah, this week they were at 0.9.
Last week was like a 0.56.
Yeah, last week.
Are you kidding?
No. It's bad. But she's blaming Shawn Michaels in the Monday after WrestleMania for that. So.
Well, that actually is
It was Shawn's retirement.
Really?
Yeah.
Here's what
Did he lose the match?
Yeah.
I think
was that a good match?
It was okay. It wasn't up to par with the last.
Really?
Yeah.
I think we're TNA.
That to me proves one thing about wrestling, that Doesn't matter what goes on. If you have an issue, I guarantee that's going to be a huge pay-per-view. I mean, like, as far as buy rate. You know, if you have an issue, people will pay to see it.
Right.
You know, it's simple. You know, they stumbled back-asswards into the fucking Undertaker streak because, you know, basically he'd have to fight all these slugs, you know, and so of course he was staying and they weren't staying, so he was going over, and all of a sudden they look back and they go, holy fuck, he hadn't lost in 10 years.
Right.
This is kind of a streak we got going, you know, and that's all you need.
Yep.
I thought I was reading about it, I haven't watched it, I refuse to watch it, but from what I heard, they totally crapped up the Bret Hart angle. You know, by running over his leg or some shit. I mean, they didn't need all that. They already had the issue. They had 10 years of story. They crapped it up.
That's not what he asked you, though. He asked you about TNA.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Well, we're talking about that, though.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't have to be a, you know.
Okay.
It's not like you fucking stayed on fucking course, dumbass.
Yeah, you know, where I think TNA made a mistake, and right now, I think they should have waited a few months until they got all the people in the positions they wanted them to be, and they cycled the people in and out that they needed to. Chocolate wine.
Fucking good shit.
This looks like a fucking yoo-hoo.
It's amazing.
All right. Chocolate wine. But I think they should have waited, because obviously anytime there's a new booker, a new creative, you know, you're going to get your people in and other people are going to get fired. So you're going to have a transition period. It's the same as anywhere you work. If you work at fucking Burger King and they get a new manager, same shit's going to happen. So they should have waited, in my opinion, until they got the key people in the key positions and the key stories, and they got people interested on Thursday and built some momentum where the show was consistently good, and then move it over to Monday.
It's a really good point.
Move it over to Monday once they have it. But now it seems to me, and I don't want to shit on TNA, because I want TNA to succeed. And no, I'm not looking for a job. This isn't what it is. I want wrestling to be healthy. But they jumped out there before they had their... you drink this on the rocks?
You can do whatever. Yeah, I do.
Okay. Holy shit, that is a yoo-hoo. Okay. But I think they moved to Monday too fast. And, I mean, you know you're going to get your ass whipped going against Vince McMahon on a Monday anyway. I mean, you've got to have some kind of momentum, and you've got to have some stars that people are starting to get behind, you know. I mean, if ECW, when you were there, it's like I came to ECW when it died, and I will always love ECW. It was probably my favorite time in the business, even though I was too drunk to know what I was doing. But it was a special place to be. But when you guys were there, the original Mach 1 ECW, that was a different world, you know, and you guys could have gone up against Raw on a Monday night and done much better than TNA did, because you had established characters, and everybody, you know, there was a vision and there was a brand. TNA does not have a vision, I don't think. You know, I just think they jumped the gun and went to Monday. They should have waited 6 months until they had everybody fired that they were going to fire, and they had everybody hired they were going to hire, and then start building the storylines and developing characters and marketing and branding to where it mattered. So, I mean, you know you're going to go in there like David and Goliath, but at least you'll have people behind David, you know? And now it's... because they're throwing so much shit against the wall, in my opinion, you know, if you're switching channels, and I don't watch either show, I can only go by what I read, but it just, they don't have the ammo. Their army isn't strong enough. They don't have, you know, like the Israeli army could kick, you know, most armies are afraid to fuck with the Israelis, and that's a small army, because they've got their shit together, you know, and they're good at what they do, and they're a potent force. You don't want to fuck with the Israelis.
And so if they got a TV show, they'd be good?
They'd be damn good.
All right, I want to go back to one thing here. Yeah, you know, I made the point earlier, but you know, we did come here after Canyon's funeral, or his wake, and me and Canyon were very close. There's about half a dozen of us that were Canyon's closest friends. But
right.
Vandy is far and away his closest friend. They're, you know, he was bawling like a little bitch out fucking side the fucking funeral. But if people didn't know how close you were, the way you told every story before, every story you had Canyon being the butt of the joke, and I don't want people to think that that could come. I don't want that to come across the way the way it seems like it did. You know what I mean?
Okay, and for anyone who thinks, see, these canyon stories I've told, I got a million of them. These are those of us who are close friends of canyons. These are the stories we tell around the campfire over and over again, and we never told them to make fun of Canyon. In fact, I thought I was the butt of the jokes, but no, Chris Canyon, total shoot in a moment of emotional honesty and all that,
vulnerability and openness.
Chris Canyon was my best friend, and he probably did more for me. I wouldn't be anybody in the business if it weren't for him. I would have, if it weren't for him, you would have never heard of me. It would have stopped at Smoky Mountain Wrestling. He's directly responsible for the success I had out of wrestling, because after I was out of wrestling, he's the guy who said, Vandy, you need to go start singing, do karaoke for a living. And I said, there's no money in that shit, and I didn't believe him. And he insisted that he buy me all the shit to start me up a business because he enjoyed watching me sing.
Which he did owe you after the car he trashed.
Yeah.
That's a whole other story.
That's another story, but see, then if I tell the story, you'll think I'm buried it.
Well, I'm not telling you to tell it, not just for me and you.
But Canyon was such he battled demons, guys. Not demons. Demons is the wrong word. He had an inner turmoil you will never understand. Most people other than me, maybe one or two other people, knew what he went through. He was not, and it was sad to watch him at times when he was drifting away from us. But Canyon was
along with the multiple person with the manic depression, which is just so brutal disease.
He was a first class guy. And I guess it's easy to tell this. It's more fun to tell some crazy fucking story than it is just to talk about what a fucking great guy and an honest guy. I told him when I first met him, I said, you're about to get into a business full of liars, cornies, whores, pimps, and thieves. And I said, they're going to try to fuck you over. They're going to try to steal from you. They're going to rip you off. You're going to run into all kinds of fucked up people. And I said, you don't want to be that guy, because you're the kind of person that I know couldn't look yourself in the mirror if you pulled the shit that people are going to try to pull on you. And he never fucked anybody. I mean, he was
except for guys.
He ran the fucking wayward school for home for wayward wrestlers. He got more people jobs in this business than he'll ever get credit for, and recruited more people, gave more people help. He probably, when he died, had $100,000 worth of outstanding debts owed to him from all the boys over the years. I got a DUI 12 years ago, 11 years ago or something, and because I was out of state, I was in Georgia even though I lived in Florida, some long convoluted pile of shit amounted to, it had to be a $20,000 cash bond. At 6 a.m. in the morning, Canyon, well, he had to wait until the bank opened. He went and got $20,000 cash. Cash. Took $20,000 cash.
He only had to pay 10%.
No, he didn't pay. No, he had to pay the whole thing to get me out. $20,000. He had to put it up to get.
When was that?
2001 or something.
For what?
DUI.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was great. And I pissed the judge off. Look, don't get pulled for a DUI when you're dressed like the devil in the middle of the night in Cumming, Georgia. Anyway, 20 grand. Who the fuck do you know that's just going to whip out 20 grand and here's $20,000 to get my friend out of jail. People talk about, your friends are the ones you can call in the middle of the night to get you out of jail. Well, those are friends, and the ones who can put up $20,000 cash, that's another friend entirely.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I'm gonna start fucking crying if I talk about Canyon too much, because I loved him and he was a damn good guy, and I'm going to miss him horribly. And the wrestling business is really, really going to. I'm so sorry that for whatever reason he wasn't. He didn't get the due that he deserved, and as some people I was talking to said, he gave more to the wrestling business, and the wrestling business gave him. Not that the wrestling business owes anybody.
I would say he gave mortis to the wrestling business
than
the wrestling business gave to him.
So,
he's a brilliant guy,
He's a great guy.
when he wasn't
wrestling.
when he wasn't beset by his baggage, by his manic depression, because he had brutal depressions, and thank God he's out of pain. That to me is like a lot. I try not to look at it as being sad that I lost a friend. I look at it as I'm happy he's out of pain, because his depressions were fucking brutal, And he would sometimes you wouldn't hear from me. He'd be in bed for weeks at a time, I mean, I don't know if you can imagine that, but I mean, unless you've had some kind of mental illness or whatever, you can't imagine it, because it's not, believe me, I have enough stuff going on in my head that I can understand. But when you have a chemical imbalance, you can't. It's not like you can reason your way out of it, or you can rationalize it. I mean, you can't fight against the chemical imbalance. It's just the way it is, I mean, read the research. I mean, I'm telling you, when you have a chemical imbalance, it's like if you have a broken arm, you can't move it around and do all kinds of shit. Well, because it's broken, you put a cast on it.
Sure.
So if you have a chemical imbalance in your head, you need to replace the chemicals that are missing. But sometimes you can't find the right combination, or sometimes they stop working, or sometimes you don't take them because you don't think you need them, or you don't want to take them, or they're working, so you're like, well, I don't need them anymore, which was one of Canyon's problems,
Sure.
sadly. But when you have a chemical imbalance, you can't function the way everybody else does, because your brain just doesn't see things the way everybody else does. It doesn't allow you to. And it's like, what I used to drink when I was an alcoholic, I couldn't even... What's that?
You?
Yeah. I couldn't even imagine not having a drink, because my brain chemistry got so altered by it that all my brain could see was I needed to have booze to keep functioning. Once I got clean of the liquor, it's like, I was lucky that I never had a craving to go back and drink. Well, let me rephrase it. No, for about 4 or 5 years, I had a craving to go back. But eventually, when I got past the craving, which is about 5 years, which is why it seems like I never had the craving afterwards, because it's been so long. But after about 5 years and not having a craving anymore, I couldn't even imagine wanting a drink. Like now, I can't even imagine needing a drink. I can't even imagine needing one, because now my brain is balanced in a different way, where it is not. When it's where it's not necessary for me to have it, and by not being necessary, it doesn't. It's a completely different reality for me as it was before.